Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now £40 or $50 might buy you a graphics card that can handle some of your favourite games with respectable frame rates, but an entire PC? Well, it's possible but not recommended. Inside this bundle of bubble wrap and stretch film is Cash Converter's cheapest entire computer. Well, entire computer with a graphics card. I didn't want to just buy anything, I wanted to be able to play some games. The system was wrapped in bubble wrap, then cellophane, and then had a cardboard box around it, and finally a layer of pallet wrap. The unboxometer at a time of 12 minutes and 47 seconds, that's almost 13 minutes to get into it from the moment I started trying. Pretty well protected if you ask me, so thanks to the Dagenham branch of Cashies for their decent packaging job and speedy dispatch. But was unboxing this like unwrapping a gift on Christmas morning? Or was it more like peeling away the layers of an onion? A lot of effort that ends in tears. Well, this thing looks pretty beaten up, but never judge a book by its cover or a computer by its case. Ignore the $79.99 price label too. This thing was reduced to half price on the website. If you follow me on Instagram, at RGInHD, by the way, I just remembered my password after like 4 years, then you probably saw a photo of this. The side panel is being held on with a single screw, not a thumb screw like one might expect and be accustomed to with PC cases, but a regular countersunk yellow passivated carbon steel screw. This will actually come in handy as I do a lot of DIY these days. I'm just annoyed that there's only one of them. Removing the side panel unleashed the smell of cigarette smoke with a hint of dog, a truly exquisite aroma. Cash Converters don't clean or refurbish PCs, I think they just buy them from whoever's selling, test that they work and then restore any operating systems to default. That's not a complaint from me, they're always pretty good with their condition ratings and pictures, it's just something worth pointing out if you plan on buying from there. Be prepared to do some cleanup, especially if you buy something that's pretty ancient like this. It might just be a matter of, blowing away some loose dust, or you might get something that's totally immaculate. Just pay attention to the condition and description. I don't think this is the best value for money machine I've ever found, not by a long shot, but I always think about whether the value of the individual components make up for the cost. The Tesla PSU is probably best suited to the bin. I don't think it's made by, actual Tesla, but there's a 1TB or 1.05 terabyte Crucial MX300 in here, which is probably worth nearly the cost of the system on its own. I checked and it's still at 98% health too. 8 gigs of DDR3 is still worth a few quid in 2025 as well, and that's before we get onto the meat of the system, the main components. First, we'll have a quick check in the DVD drive. Sometimes we're lucky enough to get a free game or film left behind, but not today. I decided to strip this down and clean it up before testing, and it gives us a chance to look at the internals up close. Anyone remember AMD's Socket FM1? Launched in 2011, it was designed for the A-series APUs like the quad-core A63650 we've got included here. The FM1 APU lineup, codenamed Llano, was ideal for those looking for an affordable all-in-one CPU and GPU combined into a single chip. Think of them as like early Ryzen G-series processors. We've got 8 gigs of 1600MHz DDR3 as well, plus the absolute gaming beast that is the GeForce 710. This is a 2GB DDR3 version based on the Kepler architecture. Now there are older and worse Fermi-based 710s, I believe, but there are also 710s with GDDR5 memory. So this isn't the worst version of the card, nor is it the best. The GT710 uses 8 PCIe lanes as well, hence the shorter connector. Game Ready driver support ended a while ago, and the latest driver version here was actually a security update from July 2024. Now the APU, the 3650, also has integrated graphics, Radeon 6530D, and I'm not sure which of the two will be better, the integrated graphics or the 710, or I should say less worse rather than which will be better, but I guess we'll find that out soon enough. First things first though, and after testing the PC, it works, which is always a good start. Even the Tesla PSU worked, and after blowing a load of dust out of it, it was actually really quiet. I decided, however, to continue to use my own Corsair RM650X for the remainder of this video. Let's try some games, if we can run any. Alright, so this thing just defaulted Skyrim to the high quality. I don't think this is going to work out very well. but we'll do as it requests. We shall continue with the high preset, see how well it runs on the 710, and yeah, it's not going to be very good, I don't think. Okay, so it was actually 720p, not 1080p with the high preset that it defaulted to, and it wasn't too bad. I mean, we're looking at nearly 30 frames per second. There is a dragon somewhere around here now, so yeah, performance is probably going to get a lot worse, but I don't think high is a particularly good idea with this sort of configuration. I literally moved the camera and the performance dropped to like 20 FPS. So yeah, and the more I walk this way towards where the dragon keeps landing, or the more I sort of look towards where the dragon is, the more the frame rate sort of drops. So not ideal when you're trying to play Skyrim, I must admit. Alright, so low settings is definitely a better option for Skyrim, as you can see here. It will run with at least 60 frames per second because I have a 120 Hz refresh rate. You shouldn't play it like that because I think there are some physics issues. You know, when you go above 60 FPS, the game can run too fast and then you get some weird jankiness. That being said, it is Skyrim, so you're probably going to get some of that anyway. Like, my horse just got stuck between the tree and the building, and I was thinking, well, is that a physics related issue with the frame rate? And then I thought, actually, no, I am playing Skyrim, so nothing out of the ordinary, to be honest. I wasn't sure whether or not the CPU or the GPU was going to be the limiting factor, but as you can see here, it seems like the 710 is actually hitting its full potential. So the CPU has a little more to give. I can't imagine it's much, but we could probably pair it with, I don't know, a 750 Ti, something like that, and have a pretty good time. Don't go pairing it with a modern 4060 or anything. To be honest, so Skyrim doesn't run too bad. There are moments where, you know, we're getting like 40 FPS or less. All right, did you just see that? Like, when the yeah, that was not good. Okay, so when the dragon just like blasts ice or fire or whatever all over you, the frame rate's going to drop pretty badly. I saw like 21 FPS there. Alright, so when it comes to GTA 5, this is the Legacy Edition, of course, and there were a few issues actually loading in, like half the textures just didn't want to appear. We might be able to replicate it actually if I sort of run in the house. No, it's when you first load it, like you get the floor and the doors and then everything sort of pops in a couple of minutes later. So again, the GeForce 710 is the limiting factor. This is the Kepler version of the card, so it's not one of the really old like Fermi versions of the card. It does have DDR3 though, instead of DDR5, which, oops, wrong button. 710, it's not one of the better versions you can buy. I think Asus released one a few years ago actually with 2 gigs of GDDR5. It's probably not going to be much better, but you will see at least 30 FPS in a lot of games, perhaps excluding modern ones. Here, the 2 gigs of DDR3 attached to this version is doing alright. It's okay for plus 30 frames per second, providing you don't mind 720p. As you can see, the A63650 will have its moments too, whereby it will hit 100% utilization, and I think this is responsible for the issues with the textures loading in that I was talking about at the start. Alright, so there was probably no need to set Team Fortress 2 to 720p, but we'll see how things go as we make our way towards the enemy players here. If you want as many frames as possible, 720p with the lowest graphics is going to work wonders on a GT 710, as you can see. I've just jumped into a quick bot match here to give you an idea of performance. I wasn't really sure how it was going to perform. Am I shooting my own team? Yes, I am. Yeah, so maybe 720p was a good idea because I've got the minigun out and performance has just dropped to less than 60 FPS. Now the A63650 actually has integrated 6530D graphics, I believe they may be called. I actually had the A4 3300, which had 6410D integrated graphics. Now at the time I thought these were a pretty big deal. I could play a few of my favourite games without a graphics card, and it was the sort of first step in the direction of a graphics cardless gaming being an actual sensible and achievable option. These days, I mean, even the A63650, the CPU or the APU I wanted is pretty obsolete in terms of performance and driver support, but we're going to test that in a minute and see how that compares to the 710 graphics that we're looking at here. I totally forgot about this. I tried to start Counter-Strike 2 or CS2 here, and we get the error message. A CPU that supports the SSE 4.2 processor feature is required. So I think SSE is like an instruction set. and it's one that older AMD processors lack. So yeah, it's not going to be playable, unfortunately, on the A6 3650 here. Alright, so when it comes to the drivers for the AMD 6530D here, we have a couple of choices, all of which are for Windows 8.1. We've got the drivers dating back to the 29th of July 2015, the Catalyst software suite 15.7.1, or we have the drivers dating back to 2016, almost 10 years old, the Crimson Edition 16.2.1 beta. Turns out that trying to install these drivers on Windows 10, it doesn't really work. You just get the Microsoft C++ Visual something installed. So I just had to run Windows Update, and then it finds the latest drivers and installs them that way, at least the proper graphics drivers. So if we take a look at the 6530D in action now, then across all tested scenarios it will perform worse than the GeForce 710, so I hope this gives you some context. Now of course the integrated APU graphics and the 710 are both pretty obsolete in 2025, but you may find a few games that will run with at least 30 frames per second, especially older ones, and that's okay if that's all you want from your system. And in the case of this system, I think we've got components that are worth more individually than I paid for the entire thing. So yeah, when you look at it from that perspective, it's not bad at all. I think I'm actually done with older PCs now, cards that aren't supported, CPUs that don't support certain instruction sets. I want to move on to more modern systems, but still affordable stuff. And I think we'll start with a SteamOS build. We've looked at Linux gaming a couple of times now. It's actually something I've been getting into quite a lot recently. So I think we'll put together like a $300 or £250 SteamOS system at some point, hopefully combining affordability with playability as well. But as for this one, thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already and you want to, of course. Follow me on Instagram at RGNHD now that I've remembered my password, and I'll be posting a few different things over there. And hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.